Okay, let's see. Okay, I think it's live. Yeah, I think so. Hello, everyone. So it's a very random conversation we're going to have today, but I finished earlier than expected, and I wanted to jump in and give you some information about the astral doorways. I know we talked about the astrals before, and I want to go a little deeper this time. So let's see where I can start. Hi, Tatiana. Hi. Thank you for being here. So, okay, let me just start because I think I'm going to try to do it as quick as possible, but there is a lot of deep information that I want to get into, and I'm going to try to break it down as simple as I can, but it should be deeper information than what we have discussed before. And the reason why we're doing this is because when we understand this and we get to the point where we truly understand this, you can see yourself in your dreams or meditations or trances if you have been able to overcome and transmute the soul's memory of trauma that you have experienced so that it cannot continue to affect you as you go forward. I know this sounds crazy, because it's not just as you go forward for this life, but for other lives, or pass it down to your lineage, your descendants. So if you're one of those person that you only worry about yourself and this life and that's it, and you don't think that your whatever you're working on has an effect on your descendants or your soul at a soul level, then this is not going to be the conversation for you, because this is going to be deep information about why the things that we experience in this life, the traumas that are deep, 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 will continue to flow down the family line and the soul. And I'm going to explain all of that as we move forward. So again, if you don't believe in that, don't waste your time, because this is going to be basically for those people that are willing and ready to understand this. So okay, some people do not understand that the astral realm is accessible to all of us through visual imagination, mental imagination. The reason why this is important is because if you don't think your imagination is real, right? Like, think about the books like The Secret and other self-help books that it's like the law of attraction, and this works, and some people believe and some people don't. And those that believe have been able to manifest things and so on. And the people that don't believe, that says it's all nonsense. What they don't understand is the power of the imagination. And it's, when people think imagination is just not real and nothing can, I mean, it's just insane, because you're thinking things in your mind and they become your reality. Your thoughts are becoming your reality. Whatever you're really concentrating on all the time amplifies and becomes your reality. So the reason why those books have become so famous and popular is because it resonates at a deep level with the people that are really to understand those things. So in this conversation, I want to get to the point where at the end you truly understand how to access the different doorways. And some of this information is going to be much deeper than some people might be able to understand, even though I'm going to try to simplify it. But if you are ready to understand and you have been working on this, you're going to be able to catch some of the things so that you can go through the different doorways and receive the wisdom and knowledge that is waiting for you there. So anyways, that's my little disclaimer. Now, if you're not ready, if you're dealing with a lot of shadow work that you still have to do, you might not want to go through the astral planes, because what you're going to see is not going to be pretty. So It's just a warning for those of you that are still dealing with a lot of triggers and traumas, and a lot of shadow work that needs to be dealt with. So anyways, how we get to the point where we can understand how powerful the imagination is for you to develop your abilities so that you can access the astral planes quicker, almost like just tapping in is key, because the moment that you close your eyes, you're in the astral planes. I think I mentioned this before. We have talked about this before. The moment you close your eyes, you're in the astral planes. Some people can get to the astral planes with their eyes open because they might be a little more advanced. But truly, when you close your eyes, all of your senses, the physical senses, disappear, and then you start tapping to the astral plane with the astral senses. And there is a very famous book. I forgot the name of the author, but it's a very famous book about the astral senses. Very simple book, though. Honestly, it's very simple. If the things that we can do here with the physical senses, we can do in the astral realm simply by closing our eyes and allowing things to become what they're supposed to be. I'm going to give you some exercises later on so that you can see where I'm going with this. But, anyways, the point is that I really want you to understand that letting yourself trust yourself is key for you to really tap into the astral plane, navigate the plane, so that then eventually you get to sort of pick where you go within the astral planes, because otherwise you always will go through a lot of disturbance in the astral planes, because most people don't know. Most people are so chaotic in their mind. They're thinking a million things. They're not relaxed enough. A lot of the traumas they're portraying in the everything that we experience here is also happening at a level on the astral plane. So all the traumas you have here, you give it to the astral planes in a sense. And when people tap into the astral plane, if they're not very well trained, what they do is that they go through other people's trauma and their trauma, and everything is chaotic. So you do have to learn how to relax your mind and how to heal, so that you can eventually, the more you heal, the more that you can actually like kind of skip over. That's the best way that I can explain it, because obviously it's not as easy as just skipping over, but I'm trying to help you understand that when you go through the process of healing and relaxing yourself, you don't have to go through the planes. Within the planes there are different access points, and some of those access points are very traumatic, some of them are very disturbing, some of them have very dark entities, some of them have disembodied energies that don't have the highest good in mind for you. And then you get to the middle place, and then you go to the higher planes within the astral planes, where you're going through the transition phase of the transition plane to get to the mental plane and the spiritual plane. So there are different levels to the astral plane. And what I'm trying to help you understand is, when you really go into the low astral plane and you start seeing a lot of disembodied energies and demonic entities, it's because you're still, number one, you might be going through some training, or you might be going through reliving some of the things that you live, but in a different way symbolically, or you might be going into an astral door that is opening up to crazy things that you're not ready to handle. So it depends on what's going on with you. It depends on your incarnation here, in terms of, we all come like the zodiac. Imagine the zodiac as an astral door. The story, and it's not this simple. I'm just trying to give you an example so that you can understand me. For example, if you come as a Leo, or as a Scorpio, or anything, any sign, pick any sign, that those zodiac signs have a lot of information about you, and they will be able to reveal to you some of your personality traits, right? Well, the astral doors have the same thing that we can see in the zodiac, meaning similar lessons, similar abilities to like what you can do better, personal and negative traits, things that you might have access to. Some people have more access to lower vibrational beings. Some people have access to very high vibrational beings based on the different doors that you come through, the door that you come through for this specific incarnation. With the zodiac, we have the positive and negative traits. We know this, we know with the house on this and that, we can figure out things that are happening. But when we talk about the astral doors, we're talking about deeper level of information that is no is the same thing that means for a scorpion to there. Let's say there's two people that have the zodiac sign of a Scorpio. They will be different, the same person with the same zodiac, and the information will mean different things for them, right? Well, the same thing happened with the astro doors. The astro doors are going to provide you information that is unique to you, because one of the things that people don't know is that it's not just about knowing the astro door that you have access to, but knowing how to get to the next level. There is always a next level, right? Like there is always the next level. So a lot of people will come with a lot of, and I'm going to give you an example later, a lot of access to dealing and controlling certain entities, while other people have access to working in partnership with very highly elevated beings. And in between the two, the yin and the yang, we have several doors that make up the astral doors. Now, there is some information that I cannot give you because it's secret information, but I am going to give you the information that I have acquired without going into like secrets. But that is going to be deeper than just, oh, there is an astral door and I can get to the astral door. Some people think that there are two doors. Some people think there are 16 doors. Some people think there's 21 doors. I mean, in the I Ching, which is the Chinese divination from the Book of Change, they have 78 characters that make up what we could be dealing with. In Ifa, we have 256 odus. Those are the odus that, you know, like if you pull your odu when you go do your mano, that's the odu that is, you know, when you're going through your process of the ceremony and all of this, and you get this odu, and this odu talks about basically like an incarnation description of what you came here to do, who you come with, and who you have access to, and you know, you can get very deep. But my point is, there are some religions or spiritual practice will have 16 doors, 21 doors, 256 doors, 78 doors. From all of those different things, what we're learning is some of the characters and the traits that we come with, the mission that we come with, just like the life path number gives you an idea of what you come here for, but it's not very deep information, right? So you have to go deeper into each number to understand what else is there, the positive, the negative traits, some of the shadows, some of the things that are very good that you can take advantage of, and so on. With the astral doors, when we go into the astral doors, we're actually talking about the inner self, right? And to help you understand that, I'm going to break it down this way. In We have this physical body. In this physical body, a lot of people think we are this physical body and that's it, right? Like we are this physical body. I come, I live, I sleep, I work, I die, you know. So you're born, you grow up, you get married, you die, and that's it. Some other people know that life is more than that. So some people will say, you know, well, if you ask someone, who are you? They might say, well, I am this person, and I am this person, and that's it. Once I die, I die. Some people will say, well, no, I am the memories that create me, the experiences. And then you have some people that will say, well, it's not the experiences and memories, because a lot of the people, they might even put their memories on the side. I have a lot of clients that deal with this dissociation, where because of the traumas they separate themselves from who they really are so that they don't have to feel, so that they barely remember memories, but they continue to exist, right? So by definition, you cannot just be your memories. You have to be more than that. So in essence, some people will say, well, no, I am my personality now because I have a personality. I am, outgoing, this and that. And that also doesn't describe really who you are, your true essence, right? Because you know the personality. When you're going through a hard time, you tend to be vibrating at a low energy, right? You're not really vibing good. So people might see you in a different way. But when you're feeling really amazing, you're vibing and, are going and this and that. So you, by definition, cannot be your personality either, because the personality changes depending on what's going on with you. Your mood changes, so your personality changes. So, in deep essence, what we're saying is the essence of you stays, it remains forever, right? When it gets tricky is because we have this physical body, the soul has a physical body that is being used to represent everything that is happening here. When this body, this person, this spirit that is part of the soul goes through a lot of trauma, they are like energetic signature that stays within the soul, that indicates to the soul, this is a trauma that I have lived. And the problem becomes when the person dies with the trauma. If the trauma stays until the person dies, it gets recorded as a trauma that needs to be dealt with, which is why we have the law of karma. Those traumas include other people, right? And those people have, as a consequence of that trauma, also have to deal with something. And I don't want to talk about karma and the law of karma and all of that, because this is about the doorways. But what I want to show you is the trauma that you experience, if you don't work it out in this life before you transition, it gets to stay at the soul level, so that it becomes a trauma that the soul has to deal with in a future life. And this is going to all tie at the end. So just, bear with me, stay with me until I can get all the points across. But I'll give you an example. Like if you go through a very traumatic incident when you were 12 years old, and you are 80 years and you still dealing with that, even though you put it to the side, you forgot it, but the trauma is there and you didn't heal it, you didn't forgive, you didn't heal, you didn't release. That means when you die at the soul level, the soul is looking at the entire life and looking at the fact that it couldn't overcome that trauma. So then it gets recorded. There is a lot of deep information about this when you really tap into a lot of occult knowledge about the star. Everybody's born with a star. The star records all the information that the soul lived in this life and all the others. When you are planning your next life, the soul is looking for the traumas that need to be worked out, and then you pick, almost like going through the lotto. Let me, like a raffle, let me pick which ones I'm going to work on. And obviously it's much more complicated than this, but that star has all the information that you have lived throughout the experience of this soul, because the trauma didn't get to be worked out in this current life, or whatever current life it was. It stays at the soul level. That's why when people go into past life, they see a lot of similarities and trends of the traumas that you experience in different lives that are still affecting you here now. So anyways, the essence of the soul records the information until that information is transmuted. If you work out, if you work through the trauma, you heal it, you release it, then that trauma is transmuted so that it can no longer affect you. And this is important because when you are going through your evolution process here of becoming a spiritual person, what you're doing is, sometimes what you're experiencing is that a lot of the things that you're seeing in the astral planes may be things that you still need to work on. For example, um, let's say, for example, you go into an astral door, and that astral door has a lot of things that you don't like. That may be showing you things that you need to work on, or that may be showing you some of the training that you're getting ready to do in order for you to advance in this life. Does that make sense? Like, I want to make sure that I'm making sense, because I know I'm trying to give you a lot, but without revealing secrets, perhaps. So I know I might be all over the place. Just let me know, please, if I'm making sense. So moving back to the astral doors, when we go through the veil to see beyond, to see within our mind, because that's what we're doing. The brain is the universe, the entire universe. We are tapping into the astral door. We're seeing within our mind, accessing the astral planes and all the different dimensions within our mind, right? So when we're going through that, some mediums will be able to see your spirit team behind you, on top of you, like on the crown or on the signs, and give you information like that. But most of the deep work comes when they're tapping in with their eyes closed, and they're tapping in and receiving the information, deep level, deep information that they're receiving, because all the astral senses are open and the physical senses are closed. So you have to remain with your eyes closed in order for you to really leave the physical realm behind and be able to accept the information that you see in the astral plane. In the astral senses will be open when you close your eyes, and you start hearing, feeling, knowing, smelling. Even some people start, like, smelling is one of the most rare, but some people can really tap into even the smelling part in the astral senses, because they're so deep into the experience that they go into deep theta or delta brainwaves, and they can even smell things. So, for example, if you're in a dream, you go into the dream, you receive everything. Your spirit will give you everything. But when you are in a trance state, you question things. You go and you are more conscious, but you still in a very different plane of existence. You're not here. You're in the astral or above planes of existence. So whether it is the mental, the spiritual, right, or the higher levels, it could be the elders. Like sometimes in between lives, we go into the transition point, and we also meet with the elders or the spirit team, and that's because you might be deep into delta or theta, that you can access those dimensions that you can access in your dreams or when you go into meditation. So everyone have access to this if they want to. What they have to do is trust and allow their imagination to take over, because when you train your imagination, you're also allowing your spirit team to help you develop the channeling and other abilities that you're looking for to develop. And you can also receive information about what is it that I have to work on. Show me what I need to work on. You can go through the door and ask for help. How can I do this better? They might point you to someone, they might tell you to do something, they might give you plans, they might give you messages, and all of that is because you might really be very intentional about where you go to receive what you need in order for you to go through your healing process. And this is all about, at the end of the day, this is all about the healing process, because we know that in order for us to become more spiritually mature, we have to go through the healing process, because otherwise what we do is, when we go into the astral plane and we're not healed, we're just going to find a lot of disturbance and things that will make us afraid. At the beginning, when people are going through the dark night, they're going through the dark night and they're seeing a lot of challenging things, because they have to either learn to fight those things or because they're fighting that within themselves. So the question is, which one is it? And if you have a clean heart and you already have gone through some of the awakenings and maybe there is still something there, then you have to think, what is it that I'm still holding on that is creating this? Or is this part of a new training? I hope I'm making sense. So the astral planes, like I said, depending on, let me give you an example. I had a client with many entity attachments, a lot of demonic entities. He wanted to do a session after a quantum healing session after doing spirit releasement because he wanted to know why that happened. Why did he really have to deal with all of this? And the higher self surprised him because he didn't expect the answer. The higher self was telling him all of those were the older versions of who he was previously. And throughout many lifetimes, he wasn't able to accomplish the transmutation of those previous version that were still with him, so that now that he's in this path and doing what he needs to do to heal all the childhood trauma and all of that, it is when he was finally able to transmute all those entities and release them into the light. And he was surprised because he wasn't expecting an answer like that. But when you get to heal, forgive, transmute, and release, and all of that, is when you can transmute truly into the light, so that those things can no longer have a hold on you. So I hope that's making sense. So, anyways, the energy in the astral plane takes form depending on what you're working on. And for simplistic reasons, I'm going to say, some occultists say that whatever is happening in the astral is just a copy of the here now, but sometimes that's not exactly what it is, because in the astral realm, when we meet, we might do things that we're not looking for. We're not looking for those things, and they're coming because it's part of your training to help other people, right? Like if you're getting attacked, a lot of attacks, and you're already doing a lot of work and you're releasing a lot of crazy stuff, and you have done all of that and you're still getting attacked, it may be because it's part of your training. But if you don't accept the training, you get really afraid all the time. And then eventually you're like, you know what, if I am with the light, they cannot affect me. And you hold your power, and eventually they get afraid of you. These entities get afraid of you because you're now in control of your powers. So they might be showing you the different versions of your evolution process. Can they create harm? You better believe it, because they're very real. They have energy, and energy can create anything, right? So I'm not going to get into the debate whether it is real or no, because I think you know where I stand with that. But you know for example, some people believe that some people can see the astral shells, the human shells that we create. We all are energy. The energy makes a copy of us. That copy is just an artificial shell. This shell, depending where we spend a lot of time or attention, that shell stays behind sometimes. And what happens is, you might see it even with your eyes open. I wasn't looking for the shell, but I saw it. And I see many shells all the time. But that shell, even though it disintegrates naturally, what some people that are in the occult, that are working dark energy, what they do is that they amplify the energy, the residue of that shell, and they amplify the residue so that it can do harm. And they will send that just like a disembodied energy that was human once. But this energy form is no human. It was a copy of the human. I know this is pretty deep, so I'm probably losing you. So let me go back to what we came here for the astral doorways, before you guys think I'm crazy. So anyways, the one of the things that people don't know is that even in the Aishim, when they have the 78 different characters, that they um, changes, those changes, or in Ifa, the 256 Odus, or in Palo, the 10 Duensat 16 astral doors, even the tarot can be used as an astral door with the major arcana. And the reason why is because if you really go into understanding the symbolism for the major arcana, you will see, for example, the Fool has very specific things in there. When you meditate and you get into meditation to understand more about that, and you recreate that, you look at it, you recreate it in your mind, and you enter, you're entering an astral door. Same thing if you do the magician or if you do any of the other cards. Just be careful, because I'm not responsible for you. Like, I'm not going to be responsible if something happens to you. Just know that something so simple like the tarot can be an astral door that you enter to pick up more information. For example, if you go into the arcana, okay, let's say, let me put it this way: you go into, you see the devil card, and you see the devil card, it has the horns, the bat, and he has two demons chained. Well, that's a very hard door to go through, and you have to be ready to look at what you're looking at. So don't mess with it if you're not ready. There is a famous what was it? What was his name? He's into hermetics, magic. The Kabbalistic trick is supposed to be, the branches are supposed to have the different doors. Like if you see the tree of life with the 10 different major columns, those are astral doors. There are so many different things that you can use to understand. Of course, if you want to know really which one is your door, you have to go through some of the initiations in order for you to get your real door, unless you can meditate and pull that information. I'm just giving you an overview of what the doors. Some doors will take you to the dark places, that where there are demons and disembodied energies, and there is larva, and there is a lot of disturbance, and they exist for the purpose of scaring everyone, creating chaos, and all of that. Then you go from there are different doors that attach to that door, and from that door there are different doors that attach to the other one, and then you have the light doors, which are obviously of the light, and those doors also have the different pros that they come with, and the different abilities that they come with, and the different things that they have to do to tap into the higher purpose for this life. So these people that have access to the dark doors is not because they have gone through some evolution and they're here now, and they're going to go through the path of understanding those energies and working with those energies. Whether they work for good or bad, that's another point. But they will have access to command those entities for different purposes and reasons. The people that work with the light and they have the maximum light in them, they can only work with the light. So, for example, there are people that cannot work with the dark because their main door is a door that if you work with the dark, to do bad things, you will have to pay the consequences severely. There are people that work with the dark that have access to that, and they are going through their evolution process because they're not here yet, so that they will go through the different incarnations until they can get to this door here, to the full light. And that means that they can work with the dark. They might not have the same consequences as this person here, but they can do it. That doesn't mean that this person that works with the light only have, as they can have access to this, but they have to be aware of the consequences. If you want to learn more about this, you're going to have to like really go deep into these astral doors to understand it. But what I'm telling you is, this is the reason why some people say, I can work with both. Of course, you have to pick which one, because there is always a consequence. Some people that are working with this darkness, they have to spend a lot of lifetimes to overcome, because every incarnation cycle is not one life. It could be 50 lives, it could be 1,000 lives, and there are different incarnation cycles. There are four. So those incarnation cycles will reveal to you how advanced you are as a human being. So for those people that have full light, if they do something to harm somebody else, they basically have to go back through the wheel of karma. Those people that are learning to work for the light but have a lot of access to some of the very malignant forces, is because they're still very low in the um, phases of what makes the soul a fully evolved soul, so that they are still learning the consequences of their actions. I know it sounds it is what it is. You, if you want to learn more about that, you're going to really have to meditate and concentrate, and deeper information about this can only be given to people that are initiated. So I know everybody's going to have access to this, so you really have to meditate to get your own answers. But the my point in telling you this is that when people say I can work with both the dark and the light, that tells me not only the person really understand magic, energy, how the reincarnations, the evolution of the soul works with the different phases, but they're also telling me that evolution where they are, depending on how they get to work with the dark entities, it can only tell you that this soul is not very advanced per se, because the people that work fully 100% only with the light, and they're different. There are people that can work with the light and have access to disembodied energies to command them to do something for good, right? There are people that will have more restriction until you get to the ultimate light, where there is no way that if you work with the dark there is no consequences. That is impossible. They will have severe consequences. And I think you will hear some people say, my spirit team told me if I do anything with the for to cause harm to somebody, I will pay the consequences, and maybe they will never, like they will back away from me or something like that. And this because they come with a very strict restrictions of who they are, because they're so advanced, they have gone through their evolution process to the point that if they command an entity to do harm, they will basically pull themselves back into the wheel of karma. I think that's the easiest way that I can explain it. If you have any questions, now is the time, because I think a lot of people don't get this, and they get very confused about, but so and so says he can do harm, and so says they can do harm, and some people are using the free will and like how there is no free will and all of that to even cause even more confusion, because they don't understand the different cycles and how someone that comes, let's say this is the first you were a fallen angel, and this is the first time that you're in a human experience. Of course you're going to have access to the demons, because you were one, right? We all have been all of that. Once we go through the process of cleansing the soul, then you have access to them, but you have to decide, do I command them to do harm or good? And if you command them to do harm, what you're going to do is that you keep yourself in that cycle, in the first cycle, until you advance, and hopefully you make it to the second one, and then eventually you make it to the third one, and eventually you can make it to the fourth cycle, which is where only we're here for the 5D, and we understand that to help Gaia we have to go to 5D and all of that. The people that don't understand that are going to be thinking, if I do harm, I don't pay the consequences because I'm just the intermediary, and I don't have to pay the consequences because I ask the spirit and this client to be responsible, and it doesn't work like that, is what I'm trying to tell you. So the astral doorways, you can tap and meditate to understand the astral doorway and see things about what you need to heal in order for you to transmute trauma that you need to transmute, so that you can fully heal, and that you can fully release, and that you can fully forgive. Because anyone that has that, I'm talking about forgive for yourself and others, because anyone that has trauma, someone has to cause that trauma, or we cause the trauma to ourselves. Whether, let's say I was an alcoholic because I didn't feel like people love me, but maybe that's not because they didn't love me or whatever. But you think they didn't love you, so now you have to forgive that person, even though the person might have loved you. It just didn't show it to you the right way, but you also saw it the wrong way. So now you have to forgive yourself and you forgive the person involved. When you receive that true forgiveness, that is such a frequency of pure love between the people involved, only then you can transmute that trauma in order to release the soul from recording that trauma, to have to deal with it, and to prevent the lineage, the descendants, to receive the trauma, because it's basically energy. Energy gets recorded. So if you have people in the family line, those people are going to have to deal with that trauma as well with you and for you. So by transmuting that trauma and triggers, what you do is that you put a stop so that nobody else has to deal with it, and you don't have to ever deal with it because you have learned fully the lesson. When do you see this in your dreams? You see this in your dreams or your meditation, or when you do ayahuasca or some medicine or trance. When you go through your own funeral, you might go through seeing yourself dying, and you see that you're dying and it feels so real, and oh my goodness, this happened, this is what happened, and finally you can release it. Now, a lot of people, when they go through sacred medicine and they see the death experience, what they're doing first is, most of the times, the ego death. I'm not talking about the ego death. I'm talking about the trauma. If we have to give it a name, I will call it the trauma death, because it's like you have to bring that trauma, fully release that trauma, heal it, forgive it, and forgive everyone involved, so that then that trauma created an energetic entity, and that entity becomes one of you, right? Let's say you have 12 traumas, you got 12 of you behind you, or whatever, if you want to call it shadow, whatever, but it's a trauma that has a specific energy signature, and that energy signature can only be transmuted when you heal and forgive and forgive yourself and the others, and fully heal the trauma so that it can be transmuted. So it will look in a trance meditation or dream or ayahuasca or San Pedro, whatever you do, as a death that you might see your funeral, you might see the skull of yourself, you might see the visitation from the entity, the energy copy of the trauma. And what you're doing is you're helping that energy that you created to transmute into the light. Does that make sense? I mean, I hope it does, because that was my main message, to help you do this at home, so that when you go into meditation, you can investigate, go through your door and find out, what am I dealing with? What is it? What are some of the fears that I'm dealing with? But you got to be ready to look, though, because it can also be very traumatic. So you have to, if you don't know how to do this and you don't feel like you're able to, you have to look for help, because it can be very traumatic, and it can really create a lot of chaos. So you have to, I guess this is for the more advanced people, just to be clear about that. So if there are no questions, I'm going to go, because it's getting a little late. I'll see you guys hopefully on the next one. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.